Hello, festival fans and event industry insiders. Welcome back to the Event Explorer podcast. This is the podcast to hear the behind-the-scenes stories from the festival and events industries directly from the leaders on the front lines. Now, I've had a great time talking to event directors and festival founders from a variety of events, and we're just getting started. So thank you for taking the time to listen. As this podcast continues to grow, I'm getting really great feedback from listeners that are enjoying hearing these firsthand accounts of such awesome events. It's been enlightening for me so far, too. There's so much talent and passion poured into each event, and though content can be as broad as classical music and rib cook-offs, I've really found that the heart of each event is a team of people dedicated to making memories and moments for their communities. And today's episode is no different. Today we're speaking with Kat Paye of the National Cherry Festival in Traverse City, Michigan. This is an event at a huge scale that promotes the Traverse City region's economy and culture, and has been doing so for nearly a century. Well, actually, that's an important date, and it was a key moment in this conversation. So, please enjoy this episode with a dynamo of the live events industry who brings so much joy. And if this episode brings you some joy as well, please remember to subscribe and follow us on social media for more awesome content. Now let's head to Traverse City and the National Cherry Festival. Welcome back. In our journey to explore the world through festivals, we've really discovered that each celebration is a reflection of its community's heart and soul. In northern Michigan, the National Cherry Festival, now in its 98th year, is no exception to that. It truly encapsulates the spirit of Traverse City and the essence of Michigan's rich heritage with its vibrant tribute to the cherry harvest. And who better to guide us through this jubilant event than the person at the helm of it all? It's a pleasure to welcome the Executive Director of the National Cherry Festival, Kat Paye. Kat, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I want to start using that word, jubilant, a jubilant celebration. I love that.
Cherries Jubilee. That's where I was kind of inspired.
Okay, that makes sense. We do love that. Anything cherries is definitely at the heart of all that we do.
It is. There's kind of as I do the research here and start learning about what you do, there's a mouth-watering aspect to it for sure, which I'm sure is one of the original draws. And I'll segue into a question. How did it kick off? I know there was cherry growers in the area, and this is 98 years ago now?
Oh, yes, there is a little bit of a contentious conversation of whether or not we started in 1925 or 1926. I will say that. So, yeah, but that, of course, plays into, of course, being our 98th anniversary this year, that we were founded in 1926. We had the first National Cherry Queen, Gertrude Brown. The growers got together and really decided it was a blessing of the blossoms. That's how it all started in May of 1926, and said, hey, we want to bless the blossoms. So a local minister came out, blessed the blossoms. A cherry queen was pronounced. She was, of course, a grower's daughter, because that is definitely how it all worked then. And that is still sometimes what happens today. So our national cherry queen to this day sometimes is a grower's daughter and sometimes has never been on a cherry farm. And we welcome it all. So it is anything and everything when it comes to the National Cherry Queen. But that is how we started in 1926, a blessing of the blossoms, which later grew into what we called the Traverse City Cherry Festival, or just the Cherry Festival. It was more of a 3 or 4 day celebration. It continued to grow. In around the 1940s, it became recognized as the National Cherry Festival, as we still stand today. The National Cherry Festival celebrating 98 years. In 2026, we'll be celebrating our 100th anniversary. And we have so many fun things planned. We are well into planning 2 and 3 and 4 years out, as always, and kind of where it started and where we're going. And it has all been around our favorite fruit, the cherry.
Very cool. Very cool. And I imagine we're not in the cherry field, cherry orchard anymore. We are now, I think you're integrated a lot into kind of downtown Traverse City or right into the area. So how did that evolution of the festival site begin? When did you move into the kind of hustle and bustle of the city?
Wow. I mean, I want to say that was even in the 1940s and 50s.
Pretty early.
So yeah. And unfortunately, I'm not fully up on that. So I might have to do my research myself. But Traverse City, obviously cherry capital of the world, we still produce in the Grand Traverse region over 70% of the nation's tart cherries.
Wow.
So this is still a very big piece to what we do. We do a lot of our events at actual working cherry orchards. So our Festival of Races, our half marathon actually runs through a working operating cherry orchard. You can go for orchard tours while visiting the festival to do that. But the actual festival main grounds, the open space park, is right in the center of downtown. And I would say that is somewhere in the 40s and 50s started to change, especially as the city started to create more public parkland. So we are on a public park in the city of Traverse City, the open space park, down on the corner of Grandview Parkway and Union. And that is a very large park. And it's continued to grow as a park over the years as the canning facilities closed and the ways of Traverse City changed. You know, we were a logging industry. That has clearly changed. You used to have logs going down the Boardman River and out into the ships and leaving. And that is clearly not something that's done now. The power plant that was over on the water has since gone. Now, when I started with the festival, which was 34 years ago, I know.
How is that possible? How is that possible?
I know, right? I was 8 when I started volunteering.
Okay, so now that makes sense.
Exactly. I believe me, I get that look from everyone. But when I started volunteering, the power plant still existed, and we ran our operations from behind it. It was still a working, operating plant in 1990. So up until the last few years, I mean, I say few, but more like the last 20, 30 years, we still had buildings that were sort of, we just worked the festival around them. And then as the places have changed and the landscape has changed, we have evolved with it. We were at 1.3 parades, now we're 2. 1 point we went back to 3, then we went back to 2. It just keeps, we ebb and flow as the community has changed, with the one thing being the most important, which is celebrating cherries. In any way, shape, or form we can, we put cherry fruit into everything that we do, whether it is dried juice in a bratwurst, cheese, chocolate, fresh cherries, cherry slushies, cherry lemonade. I mean, you name it, and you can find anything cherry maple syrup. Any of that involved in our pancake breakfast and our foodie events down at the open space, cherry topping, you name it, and you can find it with a cherry.
And I mean, people know what they're getting into when they come, and I think that's a huge draw. Speaking about the industry and how the festival has evolved and the city has evolved, can you tell me a little bit more about that? I think this is kind of maybe the biggest event in Traverse City every year. It's a draw of how many people are you serving over the days of the festival?
We anticipate about 500,000. We are a non-gated festival, though, and I think that's important. So we don't necessarily know if you've come down just to have lunch, if you've gone to a parade. So we guesstimate via our economic impact studies and various different methods to figure out roughly what we have. So we have a guesstimate of around 500,000 guests annually attend the National Cherry Festival. And while I have to correct myself here, because I went back to our history page on our website, cherryfestival.org, has all the history of the Cherry Festival. So I'm going to correct myself here. 1910 started the first blessing of the blossoms, and in 1925 was the first ever crowned Cherry Queen. And so that is when we started really affiliating as the National Cherry Festival. I know. I want to stand corrected on myself. So we do have a full history page and timeline of how things occurred. Which sometimes I even have to go check and say, when did we do that? Because there is so much rich history to what we do and why we do it. The Blessing of the Blossoms still happens in May out in Old Mission Peninsula. It's still a thing. Our Cherry Queen attends. It's still a very prominent piece to what we do and kind of how we become who we are. Yeah.
So you, 500,000 people coming to what was once, a smaller kind of working logging and farming town to what's now really a thriving vacation resort kind of destination. The whole city's almost a vacation destination. So are you working with the city every year to make sure that, we have enough rooms or how many people are we expecting and making sure the schedule works with all public safety and all this kind of stuff? Because you're not, I love that idea of you're not a gated festival. You are, which seems almost more inclusive to me. That is, we're not keeping people out. We're not creating borders of the festival. It really is integrated better into the city. So how do you work with the city to make sure that, you're staying integrated and showing them in their best light?
We can do it. No, those are great questions. So we have a 2-year agreement with the city. Every 2 years, we go back to the city commission and ask essentially permission to continue to have the festival. Now that's asking for street use, park use, things like that. So when you talk about the emergency management side, we meet with all city officials in every department, from streets department to parks departments to the police, and saying, okay, here's our plan. Here are the events we plan on holding. We have 150 events in 8 days. 90% of them are free to the public. And that is why we're not gated. We want to make this family friendly and affordable. So you can go to the bubblegum blowing contest and the pit spinning and the pie eating and pay nothing to do all these. You can bring a family of 4 down to the open space and get ice cream cones for $2. It still exists. We have not raised our rates. We continue to try to be economically friendly for both our community and our guests. So when we work with the city, we talk about all this and say, okay, this is what we have happening. This is what we have coming. We call our hotel. We have a lot of hotel connections, and obviously through Traverse City Tourism, and then through just the hotels themselves, we will call and say, we need a block of rooms for this day, or the Blue Angels are coming and we need to try to figure out if we can get a governmental per diem rate. Who can help us? So we work through all of it, and we spread the love. I work through several hotels, several restaurants. We have several catering companies. If there is a sign company in this town with a printer, we have them on speed dial, because we have to work through everything for the mass quantity that we need. But not only that, it spreads that economic impact throughout the community. We don't pick just one. We try to spread it out and know that everyone deserves a piece of the pie. And knowing that that is a part of what we do. So we meet with the city, we meet with the county. We have emergency management meetings related to the different events. So we have a full air show committee that would handle and look through all of those and meet with those emergency managers based on the air show. Then we have another one for parades. So all of our big events have their own committee meetings that also include the big larger one I'm talking about with the city commission, where we say, okay, here's our schedule of events. Here's what we're planning on. Obviously, things may change. We're very aware of that. So we work around it. Construction right now, for those who are not aware, Grandview Parkway is under construction, our main thoroughfare through Traverse City.
No stress there.
None. The thing's shut down. It's fine. So we met with MDOT and we met with the city of Traverse City, and we talked through what that would look like. And they're going to do segment 1, and then they're going to take a 12-day break. We happen to be during that break. Then they're going to start segment 2. We're deeply appreciated and honored that they felt that that was important enough to talk about it, and then to make sure we were on that same page with them, saying, if we can't stage a parade here, do we reroute? Do we change it? Last year, the bridges were under construction. How do we work with that? We're not going to blame the city. It's not their fault the bridge had to be replaced. And so we work with them and say, what's an alternative route look like? How can you guys support that police-wise and security-wise? And how can we get all of our floats and bands on board with now they're walking uphill?
There's a lot of complexity to this.
There is. There's a lot of things and a lot of people and a lot of players at the table that we want there to have those conversations and say, how do we keep doing this? And how do we continue being an economic driver for our community?
That's fantastic. The people at work here, I know that the Cherry Festival has kind of spawned this festival foundation, this group that manages this and a number of other events. What's the staff like? What kind of people are you employing year round to help manage this? And feel free to mention a couple of your other events that I know that they're putting on as well.
Yeah. We have a staff full-time of 10, including myself. And then we're big into education. So we have 6 interns from various universities and colleges who want to do what we do. So we are all event-crazed humans. And now we are educating the next generation of the same event-crazed humans. And we love that, because events build community. They build economic impact. They're important. They're memory generators. We say all the time that we are generations of fun and that we're memory makers. That's our job here. We don't attend the party, we throw the party. And we throw one of Northern Michigan's biggest parties. And we're all aware of it. And it is the coolest thing for us all to sit back on a light tower. So those are those big towers that have the lights in the air. This is what I do during a fireworks show. I'm sitting on a light tower waiting to turn the lights on when the fireworks are over. I do it alone. All of us do. We laugh about it because all 10 staff are on different towers waiting to turn on the lights. But it signifies the end of the festival after the grand finale. And we live for what we get to do in making memories for the little kid who's sitting on the sidewalk, who is looking up at those jets saying, I want to eventually be a pilot. You had a little hand in that. And to do that as a staff member is highly important. So we have 10 staff. We have a controller, operations director, communications manager, sponsorship team, volunteer coordinator. We have over 3,000 volunteers between all of our events combined, 2,400 at just the National Cherry Festival. They put in over 45,000 man hours in that 8 days. It is a bonkers group of people that we could not do it without. They are the lifeblood of what we do. So 10 full-time staff, 6 interns, 3 what we call interns, which they come for 3 weeks. So they come the week before, the week of, and the week after, and they either leave here knowing they want to do events for a living, or they run. They say, this is not my thing. So these are recreation management students who are in college right now trying to figure out what they want to do with their stuff. So the Festival Foundation was started in 2007 to be the donation arm of the National Cherry Festival, basically, because the National Cherry Festival at the time, and it still is, it was a 501c4. So we could lobby, we couldn't take donations. Well, people said, we want to gift you money. And we went, that's great. We can't take it. So the Festival Foundation was born as our 501c3. Years later, around 2016, the staff all shifted and became employees of the Festival Foundation with the operating of the events. So we operate the National Cherry Festival. We acquired the Iceman Cometh Challenge, the largest point-to-point mountain bike race in the country, is here in Northern Michigan. We host it the first weekend in November. It goes from Kalkaska, Michigan to Traverse City, starts at Kalkaska's airport, ends at Timber Ridge Resort. It is the largest party in the woods, 5,000 riders, 10,000 spectators. It is insane. It is wonderful. It's right up our alley of fun. We operate the Charity Ball Drop on New Year's Eve. It's a 600-pound cherry that descends from the sky. And all of the money raised goes to food insecurity organizations in our community. We operate the Leaping Leprechaun for the last 14 years, and it serves the littlest leprechauns of our community. It has been raising money for Munson Healthcare's NICU and Family Birthing Center that they are trying to build. So we have been using the Charity Ball Drop and the Leaping Leprechaun as true give-back events to our community. And Iceman Cometh Challenge and the National Cherry Festival have been the biggest pillars of what we do, and there's more to come. We're not done. So we continue to take on events that are pre-built in our community, traditions that have already been started. We just started to acquire them. People would call and say, hey, have you thought about this event? It's been going on for 15 years here, and we look at the traditions that are currently existing in our community and want to keep them alive.
Yes, that's amazing. Yes. So a true kind of cultural proponent for the area. And that you have the recipe for success there is really nice. That that you are able to find something and make it sustainable and make it a more permanent tradition with all of the different communities that are impacted and benefit from it.
Oh, absolutely. And under our nonprofit, we're able to continue that give back. That give back piece got to be even greater. So we were able to do, a few years ago, we were donating $120,000 back to the community in cash into different community share groups and all of those pieces. This year was $170,000. 2023, we gave back $170,000 in straight cash. And these are share groups that are sports teams, music departments. So they're using their funds for jerseys and bats and how do they get their new snare drum, and all of these things is all funds back into our community. And again, supporting the community that supports us.
Sure. These are attendees. These are performers. These are volunteers, as you said. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about kind of the attendee experience, maybe from someone coming from the outside that hasn't been to the Cherry Festival before. I know this year you're running June 29th to July 6th. Is that this year? And I saw you just signed Stone Temple Pilots for your opening night. So congratulations. Yep. I think that's a really cool big draw. So we can't maybe talk about what's the perfect day, but what's a great day, because you want them coming multiple days. What's a great day at the festival? What would you want someone to experience who has never been there before?
There's so many good things.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I am a mom of a 5-year-old, so I'm going to take it a little bit from the mom perspective.
Love it.
So one of the great days, I think, is Sunday. This year's Sunday, June 30th. We have an arts and crafts fair going on down Union Street. We have the classic car show just past the arts and crafts show. We've got our air show on Sunday. We also have a concert, which is yet to be announced, but we'll soon because we have 8 nights of concerts. So there's something every night. It is a night we have pie eating going on, so pie eating competition. There's also teddy bear tea. Teddy bear tea is one of my favorite events, which is exactly what it sounds like. Children take their teddy bears, sit in a park, and listen to a story and create a teddy bear craft, have cookies and punch. All again, free to the public. So these are, and we incorporate the library. And so we bring in these community partners to host these events throughout the days. There is something every day, but that is one of the highlights. And then one of my personal favorite events, I mean, I think they should be here all week. Absolutely. One of my personal favorite events is our Community Royale Parade, sponsored by Consumers Energy. It's a fantastic rolling storybook of our community. You have every school float in there. You have marching bands. It is an amazing look to see everyone and anything that goes on in our community is rolling down the road, and you get to enjoy it while sitting there enjoying. It is like Mayberry. It is great. You get to sit there with your family and eat pizza on a sidewalk and watch the floats and the bands go by, and it's entertaining. And the prince and princesses are on every float waving, and it is charming and adorable and brings you back to days of old. Honestly, it is one of my favorite things to stand in what we call the parade chute, which is where the bands and the floats come together and they start going down the line. It is adorable. It's adorable to see the families. They've put so much work into these floats. Every elementary school is represented. Everyone has a prince and princess. They're first graders. They're in handmade cherry dresses. The boys have their cute little red polos on with their logo and their crowns and their sash that says, Prince Andrew and Princess Savannah, and they're stinking cute. Mm-hmm. And they are waving like this is their parade. This is their show. And it's iconic. And they grow up later remembering what they did as a kid. They remember being prince and princesses. And that program has gone on for 75 years. Those kids know, and they come out and they're like, I was Prince of Westwoods and I was Princess of Silver Lake. And they have such pride in what they have done and in their community. It's great to see it. As a guest, they look at this and go, wow, look at what their community does. Look at these elementary schools and these families that have put in a lot of time and energy into these floats. And they have a theme every year. And this year our theme is national parks and properties. So you're going to see some really cool stuff kind of coming down those parade routes. You look at the time and energy our community puts in that for that guest. It's incredible. It's incredible to be a guest in another community. It's one of my favorite things is to travel to other communities and see what they do and bring those ideas back and say, we should do this. Or let me share with you the great things that we've learned that is entertaining to guests. And they come and see it. Oh, this is so cool. Look what they do.
So you do your research, you kind of travel around and visit other festivals. How do you keep things fresh? How do you, are you adding to the programming every year to interact with new audiences? I know you're also, what I love about what you're describing is how in touch you are with the authenticity of the festival. And it's just such a very genuine, tangible kind of living history at that point. Maybe a big part of it is I've seen for the evolution is the musical guests. You've kind of brought mm-hmm. bigger and bigger acts every year. Is that one way that the festival's evolving and drawing new audiences or bigger audiences perhaps?
I think it's part of it. We look at a very eclectic lineup. Our goal is always to have something for everyone. So we're going to have some classic rock. We're going to have some hip hop. We're going to have some non-musical. We had ventriloquists. We had Darcy Lynn with her bunny Petunia one year. We had Jeff Dunham. So we always try to bring something for everyone and country and really across the genres. Make sure we're really being super. I mean, people look at our lineup and they're like, that's eclectic. And I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. So we love that. One of the things we look at is probably putting more of our events in rotation. So bingo is one, people love bingo here. I have no idea why, but they love bingo. And occasionally when we don't have bingo, people are coming unglued that we didn't have bingo. And we own the machines. We just bring it in and out every couple of years. It's not a forever thing. We are deep rooted in tradition. A lot of our event directors, as I mentioned, we have a ton of volunteers, event directors. They've been doing their events 40, 50 years individually, respectively. Like the directors of the Bayside Stage have been at it for 45 years. Change is hard when you have that much history rooted in tradition. We do try to change up some of it, and we go for more quality than quantity. So we might change a menu within the flight deck, or a menu within sponsor hosting, or we might change where parade hosting is to a different area. I mean, still have it, but it looks different. So we might revamp a tradition, or change what our giveaways are for something. Or now, instead of teddy bear tea happening in this park, maybe we've moved it to the botanical gardens. Or that is what we look at. It's kind of, how do we alter and change what we already have to make it work, as opposed to throwing something completely out and trying something totally new. So sometimes it's hard for the public to notice that there's a lot of change, especially if they're a first-time guest. They think this has always been this way. So we make more subtle changes than I think big programming ones. There is some always new in our mobile marketing. So that is those vendors that are along our Marina Drive, Union Street. Well, like NASA comes. So NASA will be here this year, which is fun. And they'll do we have some flight simulator things that'll come. Those change up throughout the week. And I think that is more of our programming changes. The Ultimate Air Dogs comes every year. A lot of it, once we get it here, people don't want it to leave. So for us, we end up with the same things over and over. And so we've started to kind of go on a little bit of rotation with stuff, with like, well, we didn't do that this year, but maybe 25 or 26 we'll be back at it. So we do try to work a couple years out. The other thing is, not everything is at our open space park. We have relationships and events with like X Golf. Our hole-in-one is a digital hole-in-one now. Instead of being at a golf course, it's at X Golf here in town. And so you can play any course in the world. And that's always a fun. We had the St. Andrews course last year, kind of a different take on it, but we were able to partner with a local business and help them. And so we look at those opportunities. We had curling last year at the Traverse City Curling Center. We do pickleball now. So there's things like that. People will come to us and say, hey, we'd love to do this event. And we go, okay, what do you need to make that happen? Because we know nothing about curling or pickleball. However, there are experts in our community that do. And when they join forces with us, I mean, we're unstoppable. We can add an event for everything once we've talked to the people who know how to do it. And we can figure out bringing those pieces together. We become this huge alliance within our community and just hosting all these different events that maybe we never would have thought of. So a lot of it comes from the public telling us how to keep it fresh. I do travel to other festivals. I sit on the International Festival and Events Association board. So I am blessed to be able to go to other events and Kentucky Derby Festival and things like that and see what they do. And some things I learned that they do different than us, and maybe why. And other times I say, hey, have you ever thought of doing this? Like, maybe you could do this, or this is what we do for our sponsors and they love this. And so it's a lot of sharing of ideas and just making events better worldwide.
I love that. The sharing of expertise. You are such an expert in the field from your experience, and
Thank you.
And I love that you're giving back to the greater community broadly. And from your perspective, if someone had a festival and wanted to get more ingrained with their community, to draw more from their community, how would you advise that, or what have you found successful with that?
Listening and talking. Two things. Active listening. Find out what your community wants to do. We are not all of our events are loved. I will say that. There is some events where they're like, oh, so much noise, so much this, so much that. I often say the words, there must be something we do that you love. And we end up finding it, and they go, well, I love the teddy bear tea, or I loved taking my kids to the pie eating, or Cherrytown Fun Night with the antique fire trucks is so much fun with kids. Did you know we do all those too? And some of the events you don't love help fund those free events for kids. Or did you know we donate back to the Prince and Princess program and to the schools? And so once people learn what these can do, and once people see that what they are supporting is going back into their community, they have a different take on it. So it's integral for people to sort of realize and look at and say, your event may start with something as simple as a chili cook-off and a barbecue and a concert on the lawn. That's great. But if those succeed and more people want to be involved, you'll start drawing them in. People come in and say, have you thought of having paella while you're doing your concert in the park? And someone may say, well, I know so-and-so who has the paella pans and who does this as a catering business. And boom, there you got a festival. All of a sudden, you're drawing in those people because so-and-so knows someone else that knows someone else that can bring that in. And all of a sudden, somewhere in there is a Pepsi representative, and now you have a sponsorship. Like, that's truly It's relationships. It's active listening. It's communicating. It's talking to all your friends and saying, I want to start this festival. What do you think? Ideas come from somewhere. And normally it is people in the community who got together with a similar idea and, more importantly, a similar goal. Our goal here is to give back to the community that supports us. We support the community that supports us. 100%. That's what we're here to do. We make memories. And every now and then we do have that conversation in a strategic planning session among our board of directors that says, does this event make sense for us? Is it still coming back to our mission? Because that's a big one too. Our mission is to celebrate cherries events in the Grand Traverse region. Now that pretty much encompasses anything we do, but it's trails and it's land conservancy and it's helping those. And those spread across our spectrum of events. I mean, land conservancy is very big into Iceman. We're protecting trails. We're working on that kind of stuff all the time for what we do there. The Cherry Festival, we're working on conserving farmland and making sure our growers have an avenue to celebrate the fruit they work so hard to grow and harvest in all the ways they can, from fresh cherry booths to all of the products they can put a cherry in are in our cherry farm market. Those are things that are just based and founded into what we do. They will never go anywhere. The pie eating, the pit spitting, anything that involves a cherry, not going anywhere. But yes, we re-review bingo or teddy bear tea or whatever it is. We will look at them every now and then and say, does it make sense for us to do pickleball? But wait, if we do pickleball, we can now afford to do the pie eating for free. Like, we look at those pieces and say, these may not necessarily have a cherry involved, but you can also, there's health benefits to cherries and cherry juice. So all of our athletic events have cherry juice and dried cherries and everything when you come register or finish. So we've incorporated cherries.
You're tying it all together still.
It all comes together. And so, at the end of the Festival of Races, what do you get but chilled cherry juice and fresh cherries? And they're great for health and wellness, antioxidants, and help you sleep better. So it's all good.
It's that red thread, that cherry red thread that ties everything together at the event.
I like that.
You feel free to use it.
Thank you. I love that.
Okay, one big gotcha question here. One last one. Any big plans for the 100th anniversary that you want to tease out? No, can't give away too much.
So many. Here's what I can say. I can't say a lot about it, but there will be pie.
Okay. Oh, very good. Maybe some ice cream.
Lots and lots of pie.
Okay. Ooh.
Lots of pie, lots of pie. So we have, and we can't really talk about it all yet, but sure, we do have a big plan for a lot of pie at the 2026 National Cherry Festival. And the reason I say it that way is there's been a lot of discussion over the years to create the world's largest pie again. This has come up for numerous years. The Charlevoix held the title for a long time. I believe it's currently in Canada. We will probably not be making the world's largest pie. However, we do have other plans involving pie to definitely make our mark for our 100th anniversary.
So 100 years is a big record, in your history to set, and then you'll be setting more records in 2026 for the 100th anniversary.
Absolutely.
So running again this summer, June 29, kicking off a Stone Temple Pilots, STP, and running through a whole myriad of national acts. And then now we've heard about pie eating contests, tons of content for kids, health-focused content, sports-focused content. So it's just fabulous. And I hope there's a lot to learn here about staying tied to your community, really reflecting core values, about growing. The one thing I'll say, too, from this conversation is you say yes to a lot of things. And it's amazing because you're giving people so many opportunities. And I need to come up with some ideas and run them by you so I can get some yeses, because I don't get so many in my life.
I have to tell you this. So this is something that I have in my office that was given to me by staff.
The no button, and it's still in its package.
So it is Velcroed to my cabinet because I say no so much. So I'm going to leave this conversation at some point and go tell the staff that you think I say yes to everything.
I heard you say yes many times, and you seem to look for opportunities to involve more and more people. So
I'm going to remind them of that.
Sure. They can listen to the episode too, I hope.
Absolutely.
So congratulations and to you and your team. Look forward to visiting. I'll give you a call this summer when we're up there, and then we'll look to check in and maybe hear about Iceman Cometh. I want to hear what it takes to put on the world's largest party mountain biking race in the woods. So that'd be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Well, cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Well, wow, that was a fun conversation. Thanks again to Kat for the great insights into how she and her team manage one of the largest cultural events in the country up in Traverse City. Her energy is so contagious, you can tell she's a great leader. She's not afraid to take on a challenge if it will benefit her community, and she caters to trends and tastes to make sure she's providing the best possible celebration of her region. And we can all enjoy the fruits of her labor each summer, whether we visit TC or through the amazing cherries that hit our shelves in the grocery stores across the country. I'm honored to have you along for this ride as well. Please remember to subscribe and please share this episode with anyone who may enjoy it. There's more great conversations coming up, so until next time, happy exploring.